In this video, I'm going to give you the roadmap to go from a complete credit card novice to redeeming points for luxury vacations. The beauty of using credit cards is that the reward structures can help you to maximize the money you already spend, to book travel, or redeem your points for purchases that matter to you. If you're spending $2,500 a month on everyday living expenses, putting that all on a debit card, the money is as good as gone once it's spent. However, if you made those same purchases on a credit card at a conservative 1% cash back, which if you stick around is way lower percentage than what you can actually receive, you would earn $300 back each year in credit card rewards. Right off the bat, you might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Why would banks offer these sorts of rewards in the first place? To understand this, we need to understand how banks make their money from credit cards. The first way is charging an annual fee. This is perhaps the easiest way to understand. On some cards, but not all, the bank charges you, the cardholder, X amount of money every year to keep the card. However, even though the issuer might charge an annual fee, I'll explain later on how we can use the benefits/credits of the card to outweigh this cost. The second way banks earn money off of credit cards is by charging transaction fees. These are fees that the bank charges the merchant selling the good for serving as the medium by which the payment is made. For most transactions, the bank charges the seller anywhere from 1.5 to 3%. This may seem small, but considering the sheer volume of credit card transactions made, this number adds up quickly. The next way banks make money is on foreign transaction fees. If you use a credit card to make a purchase in a different country, they may charge you a small fee to convert the money. Later in this video, I'll talk about some cards that do not have foreign transaction fees, so you can avoid these fees altogether. This next one is a huge one: interest charges. If you don't pay your credit card statement in full every month, the bank will charge interest on the amount you owe, and usually these are exorbitant interest rates, with the average currently being around 25%. Now, this is a super important thing to know because if you mess this up, it can become a massive financial burden. I'm telling you now, if you can't limit yourself to spending only as much money as you have, then you're not a credit card person, and that's alright, most people aren't. However, if you only spend money you know you have, and most importantly, pay the balance off in full every month, then you don't ever need to worry about paying any interest or hurting your credit score. And credit cards can actually become a financial advantage. This brings us right to our next lesson, and that is on your credit score. This is a super important number to know for credit cards, as well as things like mortgages, car loans, etc. At a high level, your credit score measures your credit behavior. It indicates to lenders how trustworthy you as a borrower are. There are 5 different components that make up your credit score. The first and most important being your payment history, which accounts for 35% of your score. If you pay your balances off in full and on time, which you should be doing, then it will positively impact your score. The second biggest factor is your amounts owed. This part of your score takes into account things like how many accounts with balances you have open, how much of your credit limit you utilize, and other similar indicators. Third, the length of your credit history. This component makes up 15% of your score and is simply affected by how long your credit accounts have been open, and generally, the older your credit accounts, the better it is for your score. However, even if you're just starting out with credit, I wouldn't worry too much about this because you can still have a good credit score without having a long established credit history. The fourth piece of your credit score is your credit mix. This part constitutes 10% of your overall credit score, and it takes into consideration the types of credit accounts you have. I wouldn't worry too much about this part, and definitely don't think you have to go out and open a ton of different types of accounts. The fifth and final piece that makes up your FICO score is your amount of new credit. This tracks things like the number of accounts you have opened or attempted to open in the past year. Similarly, this part isn't too big of a deal, but if you are considering something like purchasing a house, I would hold off on opening a ton of new accounts in order to have the absolute best credit score you can. Now that we understand the fundamentals of credit cards and your credit score, we can get to the exciting part and start talking about the best cards for you to apply for. So the first question you need to ask yourself is if you already have an established credit score or not. For the first set of card recommendations, I'm going to assume that you either have no credit history or bad credit history. If you already have some good credit habits, then you can skip forward to the chapter below where I share my favorite cards for people who already have a year plus of credit history. One of the frustrating things about credit cards is that you cannot immediately jump in with the cards that have the best spending multipliers and sign-up bonuses. The point of getting a beginner card is to help you build your credit foundation. However, these days there are even some credit cards that offer rewards even if you're a complete beginner. There are 2 types of beginner cards I'm going to recommend: student cards and secured credit cards. If you're currently in school, I would definitely lean towards the former, as this will be the best place to start your credit journey. The 2 issuers that will be easiest to get approved for will be Discover and Capital One. My personal recommendation and the issuer I started with will be Discover, who has 2 great student cards. the Student Cash Back, and the Discover Chrome for Students. The first option offers 5% cash back on rotating quarterly categories and 1% on all other purchases. The Chrome for Student offers 2% cash back on all gas station and restaurant purchases, with 1% back on everything else. The reason that I would recommend going with Discover is they offer unlimited cash back match at the end of the first year. That means if you earned $100 in cash back, you would earn a total of $200 cash back in the first year. It's important to note that these Discover cards only offer cash back and do not have a point currency to use for travel. Capital One also offers 2 great student credit cards that offer different point earning categories, and both come with a sign-up bonus of $50 after spending $100 within the first 3 months of having the card. Now, this by no means is a crazy sign-up bonus, but at the beginner level, any sign-up bonus is great. The last beginner card I'll talk about is the Chase Freedom Rise. This card offers a flat 1.5% back on all purchases and offers a $25 statement credit for enrolling in automatic payments. Interestingly, the offer page for this card shows that if you have a Chase checking account with $250, you have higher odds of getting approved. If you don't want to set up a checking account with Chase, I'd recommend going for one of the other cards I mentioned earlier. However, if you do go down the path of getting the Freedom Rise, the strongest thing it has going for it is that it earns its cash back in the form of Chase Ultimate Reward points. Chase UR points are some of the strongest credit card points in the industry and become super valuable later on when paired with other Chase credit cards, where you can turn your points in for travel redemptions at 2 to 3 to 10 times the cashback rate. But more on this later. Overall, I don't think you can go wrong by starting with any of these cards. I would just spend some time to figure out which your spending habits fit best. After you spent roughly 6 to 12 months with your first card, I'd consider stepping into the next phase of the credit card game. Side note, the reason I would say to wait 6 to 12 months is that some issuers like to see that you have good credit history over a longer period of time. For example, Chase in particular is more likely to deny you if you don't have a year of credit history. Now, at this point, you have to make a decision, whether you want your rewards to optimize for cash back or for travel. Although lots of cards offer both possibilities, depending on which route you want to go down, there will be different cards to suit your needs. The cash back route is the easier of the two to figure out. When it comes to the best cashback cards, there are a ton of great options out there, and notably, most of them do not have annual fees. There are multiple cards out there that offer 2% back on every purchase, such as the Citi Double Cash or the Wells Fargo Active Cash. You could also opt for the Chase Freedom Unlimited, which earns 1.5% back at a minimum, but also earns 3% back on dining and drugstore purchases, as well as 5% on travel booked through the Chase Travel Portal. I think this is a great option, particularly if you spend a lot at restaurants. Another great option is the Citi Custom Cash, which offers 5% back on your highest eligible spend category, up to $500 each billing cycle, and 1% on everything else. The last cashback recommendation I'll give is the US Bank Cash Plus. This is an incredible cashback card that offers 5% back on any 2 categories of your choosing, up to $2,000 per quarter, 2% back on dining, gas, and grocery, and 1% on everything else. Overall, I don't think you can go wrong with any of these cards if you're looking to go down the cashback route. Let's now switch to where I think credit cards can provide the most value, and that is through travel credit cards. Using these types of cards can provide you with some really crazy travel opportunities, from first-class flights to luxury hotels. For most people at the beginning of their journey, the best cards to get would be ones that offer transferable currencies, such as Chase Ultimate Rewards points and Amex membership rewards. These sorts of cards offer more flexibility with your points, as you can transfer them out to different transfer partners to find the deals that best match the way you want to travel. Then, later on down the line, you can get different hotel and airline credit cards that earn points exclusively to those airlines. Before I share the cards that I think are the best, let me explain the different ways for you to earn points so that you can save them up faster. Welcome offers are the best way to earn points in the credit card game. By meeting the card's minimum spend requirement, you can accumulate tens of thousands of points depending on the card. However, another warning, do not spend money on things you normally wouldn't just to hit the minimum spend. Instead, try to coincide higher minimum spend requirements with large purchases that you have upcoming. The next and probably most obvious way is to spend money to earn points. And even though this is obvious, there is a smarter way to go about this by using the right card with the right points multiplier for your purchases. For example, you could have one card that gives you 1 point per dollar on groceries and another one that offers 4 points per dollar on groceries. Simply by knowing your credit card's category multipliers, you'd be able to earn 4 times the amount of points than if you were just spending on one card, never learning their strengths. The third and probably hardest way to earn points is through referral links. Credit card companies offer you bonuses from 5,000 points and more for each person who successfully gets the credit card that they applied to through your specific link. This won't be the most plausible for many, simply because finding someone who wants a credit card and wants to use your link could be difficult. But for couples, this is one of the best ways to increase your point balances. The first player can apply, get the card, earn the welcome offer, and then refer the second player to the card. Then, the second player gets the sign-up bonus, and the first player gets the referral bonus. As you can tell, there are a variety of different ways to earn points, which can ultimately help you to maximize your rewards. When it comes to the best credit cards to optimize for travel, there are a multitude of options, but I'll lay out a few different cards and a few different setups. Let's begin with what is known as the Chase Trifecta. This actually is made up of 3 different cards: the Chase Freedom Unlimited, Chase Freedom Flex, and Chase Sapphire Preferred. The reason that I'm recommending the 3 of them together is that each one individually is a decent card, but when combined together, your point earning abilities and travel benefits combine to make what is perhaps the best/simplest travel setup in the game. To start, the Chase Freedom Unlimited and Freedom Flex both offer 3x back for dining, drugstores, and 5x back on travel booked through the Chase portal. They differentiate in that the Chase Freedom Flex earns 5x back on rotating quarterly categories, while Chase Freedom Unlimited earns 1.5x back on all purchases. In this setup, you would use the Freedom Flex when you are spending in any of the current quarter's elevated categories. Then you would use the Chase Freedom Unlimited to make purchases that fall outside of the spending multipliers of the other 2 cards. The third card, and the one that makes this setup so powerful, is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. It's worth noting that this is a card with a $95 annual fee. However, there is a $50 hotel credit every year that you keep the card that you can use in the Chase Travel portal. If you pay for just 1 night in a hotel a year, then you can easily reduce the credit and reduce the effective annual fee to $45. Now, this card has a lot to offer. In terms of multipliers, it offers 2x on travel, 3x on online grocery stores, 3x on dining, and 5x on travel booked through the Chase portal. It also offers no foreign transaction fees, which makes it great for traveling. Additionally, when you redeem points through the Chase Travel portal, you can redeem your points for 25% more at 1.25 cents per point. However, the real strength comes from the fact that this card gives you access to Chase's transfer partners, such as Hyatt or Air Canada. Using transfer partners, you can find reward redemptions for business class flights or 5-star hotels that equate to 2 to 5 to 10 cents per point depending on the specific redemption. But more on this later. As I mentioned earlier, when you pay for an annual fee, you want to make sure you get more value out of the card than the fee itself. In the first year, you can easily justify the annual fee if you meet the minimum spend to get the standard 60,000 point welcome offer. At a cash back rate of 1 cent per point, this is $600, so it actually outweighs the cost of 6 years worth of annual fees. Even better, when transferred out to transfer partners, this could easily be $1,000 plus of rewards. If you're interested in applying for any of these Chase cards and want to help support my channel, I'll leave my referral links to them down in the description. If you do go ahead and use this, please make sure that the welcome offer is competitive with the one publicly available, because I want you to get the best offer. And if you do happen to use my link, I'd very much appreciate it. Now, outside of the Chase Trifecta, some great cards for travel-minded people include the Amex Gold and Platinum cards, the Capital One Venture X, the Bilt MasterCard, and many others. I think that each one of these cards can help anybody to travel better if used wisely. Before applying for any of these, I would do research through YouTube videos, blog posts, and the issuer's website on how to best get value out of the card. Now for the fun part. Using the points you've collected from all sign-up offers, referrals, and everyday spending to travel to your dream destination. To provide an example, I'm going to show you how to book a business class flight to Paris on miles and points. We're going to use Chase Ultimate Reward points to fly on Air France, but the principles used to book this trip are similar to other airlines and hotel brands. The first thing to do is to find the flight that we want to book. So we'll head over to the Air France website and click Book with Miles. And then we're going to be booking one way from LAX to Paris. And as for the date, I'm going to pick August 7th, just because I've already found the deal I'm going to show you. But when you're searching for reward availability, you'll have to jump around to find it. Usually you could leave the date empty because Air France used to allow us to see a full month's worth of prices at a time, so it's easy to find the best deal. However, either recently they changed this or my search is acting weird right now, but regardless, I try to leave it empty when you first search. And then for the last part of this example, we're going to be booking in business class just to show you how powerful points and miles are. But if you wanted to use fewer points, you can choose economy and then we will hit search. When we search, we can see that there is this flight which costs 50,000 miles and $204 in taxes and fees. It's worth noting some airlines charge much lower fuel surcharges, but here on Air France there are moderate taxes and fees associated with booking the flight, so it's not completely free. However, I think you will still come to find that this is a great deal. Now that we've found our flight, the next thing to do is to transfer points over to Air France from our Chase account in order to actually book this thing. Log into your Chase account and over on the right side you will see your point balance, When you click it, it will ask you what card you want to transfer your points from. If you have points on either of your Freedom cards, you should transfer them over to your Sapphire Preferred, because as I mentioned earlier, you have to use this card to transfer out to Chase's hotel and airline partners. On the top menu bar, select Travel, Transfer Points to Partners, and you will see all of the partners Chase has to offer. Right now, we see that Chase is offering limited time transfer bonuses to Virgin Atlantic and Marriott Bonvoy. These are great ways to make your points go even further. However, for our example today, we aren't going to be taking advantage of these. We'll scroll down and find Flying Blue, which is the loyalty program of Air France, and go ahead and click it, and at the bottom you will see an option to transfer points. It will then prompt you to link your Flying Blue account, and finally, once you do that, put in the number of points you want to transfer. In our example, we will need to transfer 50,000 points to afford our flight. So now that we've transferred our points, we'll go back to the Air France website and find our flight and complete the booking process. And congrats, you successfully booked a business class flight across the Atlantic using points. To show why I prefer using points to transfer out to partners, let's calculate the cent per point ratio on this booking to see the value we are getting. Looking at the cash price for the exact same flight on Air France, we see it would cost $4,383. To calculate the cent per point ratio, we will deduct the $204.20 from the $4,383, which leaves us with $4,178.80 of cash value. We then divide by the 50,000 points to arrive at a grand total of 8.36 cents per point, which is over 8 times as much as the basic 1 cent per point you can redeem for cash. Obviously, there is an opportunity cost to passing up on the cash redemption, but personally, I like to use my points to travel. And with that, you've learned enough to start your credit card journey and the basics of redeeming points and miles. If you're new, please consider subscribing for more personal finance content like this. Thank you very much for watching.